creepy person. Is that working?
Yeah. Oh, if only that works. Hi guys.
Oh,
I hope you can hear us. Edward's having fun with a voice changer. He's having a blast now.
I am.
Yes.
Why, sure.
Hey guys. All right. Please let us know in the chat that you can hear us. I'm hoping you can. Not everyone's quite here yet, but oh yes, we can hear you. Good. All right. Well, I think actually Greta's question is like a good one to put up for everyone. Okay. Did I lose you guys? Oh no.
No, you got us. You got us.
All right. That was really weird. I was hearing some weird, okay.
Probably
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So let us all get sorted and people come in. I know it's going to be for at least for a few minutes. We haven't got everyone here. We do have Edward and Hannah, which is importante. Yeah, everyone's like, am I stupid? Come on, stay still. My microphone keeps drooping. It like has erectile dysfunction. So it
happens.
I'm like, God damn it. I don't want to buy a new one already, a new stand. It's so good to see all you guys. Hey Tara, hey Errol, sorry, Moist Towelettes. There we go. Moist Towelettes is in the chat.
Excellent.
The chat is now running way too fast for me and the back end to follow it, and I know I'm going to miss stuff. So that's good. I can't even imagine what people do. We've got 60 people watching, but when they have thousands or tons, I can't even imagine how can you even see chats? I don't think you can even see chats.
This is it's the intimate. We get to sit around, have a drink, tell stories. Sounds wonderful.
Sounds like
hey, everyone.
I hope you all a Foxy Eddie. Oh my God. Hi, everyone's like, yes.
Hi, Leslie.
I love her name or their name. I don't know if it's a her or a him. Leisurely Panda. I mean, who cannot be? Yeah, exactly. So, I hope you guys in the chat have been thinking, ooh, we've got Vanessa here. Hello. Vanessa, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
We can hear you too.
Yay!
Yay! This is most excellent. We're just getting everyone settled in, so don't even worry about it. We're just coming to the bit. But I was going to tell everyone in the chat, we actually did have a couple people send in some oral spooky stories that happened to them, so we're going to be able to listen to them. But for you guys in the chat, please start thinking about things that has happened to you that were spooky, because we're going to be talking about that stuff. I'm bereft that Adam's not going to be here, but Adam doesn't believe, so
no, he doesn't.
So there's that. So
unbeliever, Sean.
Yeah. So he was always like, no, I don't. I think actually K. Warren's actor doesn't either, which Bruno does not either. So so there we go. Totally unbelievers. Oh my God, Vera, you're in Japan and you're with us. Jesus. Vera tells me how this works. She goes, Vera, good morning from Japan. Large streamers typically favor platforms that deliver messages in batches and not instantly, so there's more time to skim read. Still, I think that would be like you'd never get through even a fraction, I guess. Well.
It's 4 a.m. there comparatively? Something like that?
Yeah, seriously. Ooh, Adwar says, do you ever read fan fiction in the stream? We have actually. Last year we did part of that. We actually all acted it out, so we do that at times. Not today though, but another time we may do that. Okay.
It takes a lot of prep. It takes a lot of pre-preparation time.
Yes, it does.
And then time of drinking after I've read some of the fan fictions you all suggested.
Oh God, a lot of drinking.
Yeah.
We have to day drink right now because we're doing it in the afternoon, so it's like worse.
All right, we have to. You heard everybody. I'm afraid it's mandatory.
Yes. We should be doing shots after something happens.
Oh God, honestly, I need them today after the week I've had.
That's always good. Hold on, someone just binged me. geez, I can't do 2 things at a time. You know, I think this idea that you can multitask is a complete and utter lie.
It is. It's a lie.
It is a
It is
lie.
a lie. Yeah. And
It's a
Vera
lie. No
confirmed,
such thing.
Edward, that it is 4 AM in Japan.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Well, thank you for
And
being here, Vera.
so Ariel is threatening to sing to us, which is like interesting. Ketan, if you got a great, hilarious story you have to send. All right. Well, you'll have to if you can summarize it in the chat, we might be able to share it with everybody. That would be good. I love
Lots
how
of respect, Vera Lynn. That's awesome. I'm in the Navy. Excellent.
She is. And what was great about it was when I was with Empire of Stars, which is a sci-fi space marine romance, which is a lot of fun. She said that I actually got, well, she was being very kind, some very limited things right about how a ship would actually run. Some very limited things right, which I then broke, but that's okay. It's okay. Tara, I agree. Multitasking is the ability to screw up several things simultaneously and do them all badly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Right.
That's the story of that's my life, by the way. That's just me every day.
Yes. Oh God. All the time, all the way.
All the time.
Adversary asks Edward, what is your favorite horror movie? If you've got one.
Oh, I have so many. My brain instantly went to the Witchfinder General. It's a 1970s one.
Ooh.
Which is absolutely horrific and based on history. Humans terrifying. And it's essentially about a man who was just some guy who decided he was an expert in finding witches and proceeded to tour around the countryside, show up in small towns, demand money to detect their witches, and then would take women, mostly women, because of course,
Yes.
subject them to physical, sexual, psychological abuse, and in some cases they were then executed. And he was then paid for that privilege by the local dignitaries.
Excellent.
But my fun, terrifying one at the moment, Dog Soldiers, a fabulous werewolf movie.
Oh, I love that one.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm excited.
Oh. What's yours, Raythe? What's your favorite horror?
Yeah.
Well, it's not traditional horror, but it's like a paranormal, supernatural serial killer one. So cultish.
Ooh.
It's on actually Netflix, and it's a Spanish series.
Ooh.
And it's basically this woman who returns back to her hometown in Spain. She's actually a forensic investigator, and there's been a series of murders, and this girl is found, and it's really good because it ends up her entire, spoiler alert, although I'm not telling you what the name of the series is, her whole family is essentially the problem. Like her family is the problem.
Too close to life.
Yeah. And so it's, but I tell you, I love all these. I love that Netflix is bringing us all these shows that from other countries, so that because it's a different aesthetic. Like I found some French. So there's another one that's called like Black Forest, where it's really again it was like a police procedural, but with supernatural elements and involving these. Oh, so good.
Great. I like Le Parc de Loup. Which is, if you haven't seen it, it's very, very silly. The movie goes crazy about halfway through, but it's a French werewolf movie again, based around the concept of the Beast of Gévaudan, which was this well-documented. Dozens of people were murdered by this beast in the woods around Gévaudan, and it's exploring that story. It's not really horror, but it is, but it isn't. And it's got some wonderful Marc Dacascos martial arts where he plays a...
Yes, I've seen this one. I love this one.
So Canada. Yes, it's that one. It's so wonderfully camp. Monica Bellucci as a papal assassin. I mean, come on.
Vanessa, what about you? What's your favorite?
You know, I'm not a big scary movie fan, but I kind of love the Blumhouse ones.
Yeah.
Like Happy Death Day. That's one of those movies that anytime it is on, you know, when you turn on the television in the afternoon and it's lure me into some television watching experience that I did not seek out. And that's one of the ones that I will always be like, oh, I have to watch this whole thing now because I love it. But it's like they're scary, but also funny and very tongue-in-cheek and clever. So I like that.
They are. I actually saw one. It's the Blumhouse ones where just on Amazon Prime, which I was like, what? This didn't go into theaters because I normally shoot everything to theaters most likely. where essentially it was, so her mother had lost all her friends to, again, a serial killer. God, I really have an issue with this. Um, and in 1989 or 1987,
yeah.
and she goes back in time to try to stop them from being killed. And she's like, "You got to be kidding me! I've told you a mass murder is going to come after you, and go to the goddamn woods." And I'm like, this is awesome.
Right?
So I was like, it's just like they know the tropes so well. And I like the fact that they seem to, well, what is it, Jason Blum? He finds people who are good, and he finds people unexpectedly that maybe have been overlooked, and it's just really great.
Yeah, it's more about the story and the concept than it is about the production budget.
Yeah.
Stars.
Mhm.
Wolf Creek is a good Australian film if you want to be
Do
terrified.
not. Okay, I have
Yeah.
a story about Wolf Creek. I went to go see it with one of my best friends, and I love horror movies. Horror movies are my thing. I will watch. I see them all. I have the Shudder subscription. I like horrors. If there's a new one, I watch it. And I love all the old ones. The 80s horror, my favorite.
Yes.
But Wolf Creek, I went to go see it in theaters, and they had sort of advertised it as kind of like a scary, maybe like an alien movie or like UFO, and that is not what it is about at all. And it was one of these torture porn ones, like with just
God.
like, and those ones I have trouble with. I'm just like, oh God, no. And the worst was, it's a true story, and it's more of like a true crime than a horror, but it's also absolutely horrific. It's one of the most horrific murders.
There's some really cool stuff, and there's a question about why watch horror movies, like why do it. There's some really interesting research about what it does to a human to watch these things that should cause us massive anxiety and fear, but to do it safely and to be titillated.
Yes.
Mm.
Well, there's
apparently
actually
people who suffer from anxiety tend to watch horror movies and really, really like them, because it is a way for your brain to cope with what you're dealing with anxiety-wise, to see how much worse it could be.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look how bad it could be. I'm doing great.
Well, I always laugh about all the true crime and stuff I listen to. I'm not using it as a how-to manual. I'm using it as a how to avoid manual, as if it could be controllable.
Right? I learned all the ways that a serial killer could possibly kill me.
Exactly. And how can I get out of this situation and all this kind of stuff? I mean, I plan about, what if my car went into a lake? How would I get out? I plan this. Because I don't know. I just do. I'm like, well, what would I do? But yeah, although I'm not alone, because according to Netflix, many of us find their serial killer shows relaxing. Watch those before bed.
The ones that mess with us. Silence of the Lambs is a great example, where the person who we're supposed to revile and go, you're really disturbing, suddenly turns into a hero and gets their own spin-off series.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. How does that work?
Yeah.
I'm actually watching another show that's news called Missing. It's sort of ridiculous, but it's got the Hannibal Lecter-esque thing. Basically, she was the main character. She was kidnapped as a child by this man that she called Sir. And she ended up saving herself. And then later on in life, she and a group of people who are similarly damaged by losing people or having something tragic happen to them form a group that goes and looks for missing, people who may not get the same amount of coverage as, as others. But she actually captured the guy who captured her, and she has him in her basement and is forcing him to help her find these other missing people. She is amazing. This actress, I don't know who she is, but it's on Peacock, so I don't know. I'm one of the two people that subscribe to Peacock, which is a streaming service. I think it's ABC or CBS. But I'm telling you, they actually have some good stuff on there. They have the Continental on there, which is the spinoff of John Wick. Here I am. I'm shilling them. They should give me, if I get one more person out, we've got
there's
to
your
be
money.
watching.
Yes.
I know, exactly. Like, right?
Say to everyone, go watch horror films from different cultures and countries. There's some great stuff out of Japan.
Oh God.
Japan, the Philippines, and Indonesia. The Philippines and Indonesia have some really, really scary movies. like truly petrifying movies. And I read a lot of horror books as well, so I love all those like paperbacks from hell, you know, like all those old 80s, 70s horror books. But if you're really interested in good horror, I highly recommend Grady Hendrix.
Oh, okay.
Any of his stuff is really good. I especially love Horror Store and my best friend's Exorcism, which I think they made a terrible movie of on Netflix. But the movie has nothing to do with the book. The movie's quite awful. The book is great. I have never met a grown man who could write for teenage girls so well, like lead teenage girls. Yeah.
Well, I was
so highly recommend Grady Hendrix.
I've actually listening again to Peter Straub's Ghost Story. It's a book from like 1980, but it's excellent. It's like he's Stephen King, but with a different twist. He actually wrote The Talisman with Stephen King, but he was actually a literary. Yes, he was a literary novelist, and then that totally did not go anywhere. So then he decided to write horror, and then he made a name for himself. But Ghost Story, even though it's very dated, it's actually fun because it's like looking back in a time capsule of that era and that area of the East Coast. It's excellent, and it's really really good. But I think
here's something for the just for the live stream. We were thinking of producing a book of horror stories at HGR. Is that something that you guys would be into listening to? Like, is that something that interests you? They would probably mostly be out of print stuff because we don't want to have to buy rights.
I would, but definitely.
All right.
Guys in the chat, let them know whether you would like that and if you'd be interested in when that comes out.
And what kind of stories do you like best?
Although he's very problematic, I do love H.G. Lovecraft. Actually, The Rats in the Walls is one of my most favorite stories of his. That is truly mind-blowing. You watch
one of my favorites is Poe's Cask of Amontillado.
Oh yeah.
Some good short stories as well. There's a killer cat one that's quite good.
Ooh!
Don't give them ideas.
Don't give them. I know they do not need more ideas. But I feel like we've overlooked a big section of horror, which is actually science fiction horror, which is like stuff like Aliens, Event Horizon. Those
I love those. Pandemonium? No. Pandorum is a great one.
Pandorum? Yes.
Pandorum, yeah.
Well,
I love those.
Horror into this generic category, and yet there's, some people go, I hate body horror, gory horror, slasher horror. There's even romance horror. There's some China are actually.
What's the one that we were what were we discussing about possibly doing Carmela?
Yes.
That's excellent. There's actually I don't know if you guys are considering doing it this way, but Audible did one where they did a full cast, which was really fun. That's excellent. By the way,
that's what
King Juan sent a $20 super chat to tell you that they would love to hear the stories. So they put in a $20. So you have to do it now. Thank you so much, King Juan. Now you have yet another thing to add.
Email us. Guys, please email us just through our website and tell us if there's a story that you really, really want us to do, and maybe we can add it to the pile that we've been compiling. We'd be happy to do ones that you guys would specifically like to hear.
Absolutely
awesome.
So Carmela is it's a lesbian vampire story.
It is the first vampire story, actually.
It is the first,
in England.
Yes, in England, yes.
And it's old.
And all of that.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't believe how, to be perfectly honest, just how risque that is. And when it was, my God, what did they think of it at the time?
Well, and it's a lovely arc. I mean, this little girl meets this strange woman.
Yeah.
As a child, and she shows up throughout her life and it's the same woman. It's wonderful, and it is
Yeah, it's a great story.
Especially for the time. I'm sure it was one of those banned books that
it had to have been.
You mustn't read it. You mustn't read it. Quick, take it out of the schools. Look at ideas.
I mean, really and truly, because I mean, it. I don't want to say it's not that it doesn't pull its punishes, but it's clear what it is. I mean, it's clear what's going on.
Yes, very clear. Yes.
All right, my microphone is suffering from rectal dysfunction again. God
oh no!
It.
Just to give everyone an idea, it's the 1870s. So it's 25 years before Dracula.
Yeah.
And it was printed in a serial, and it's this young woman is preyed upon by this vampire, and for its time, as you say, Raythe, it's really. Oh, you can get away with that.
Yeah, I was. Believe me, it was shocking. I was like, "This is not at all subtext. I mean, this is in the text.
It's just text.
Her moaning it's just text. I'm like, wow. So it's Dumar, I think it is, right?
Le Fano.
Le Fano. Yes, Le Fano.
Yeah. And I think it's amazing. It's also in the style. It's funny we're talking about true crime. It is actually presented as a true crime case.
Yes, yes, it is.
Sherlock Holmes and things. And so this is the first sort of occult detective in literature, or paranormal investigator. So it has its roots for the supernatural and all of those shows of investigating a case.
Moist Towelettes, it's called Carmilla. You can find it most anywhere because obviously it's free. Excellent.
It's out of copyright, so you could probably get it online at the Gutenberg project or something like that.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay. Well, what I want to do is I do want us to listen to the two people who sent in some stories. So hold on, I'm going to share my screen and then it's on YouTube and play that so we can listen to it. So hold on, guys. I know. Share screen.
I'm going to mute myself because otherwise it'll all go horribly wrong.
Right. Yes, I'll mute myself as well.
Yes, it's the way it is. I know.
Hello, my name's Ariel. My username on Raythe is loveislove21. And I once went to this festival in Georgia. I think it was a peach festival. My dad was performing drums at an event. And I was walking around because I was bored out of my mind. And I saw these gorgeous buildings that were really, really old. But there was this one particular church that was, I don't even know how many hundreds of years old. And I went to the back of it. I took pictures along the way, but I found this gazebo-like structure that was pretty much encased in stone. You can see inside of it. And there was a door. And little places on the ground for a stone walkway. And I was taking pictures, or about to, trying to get focus, and I saw this lady walking up to the stone structure on the walkway, and she was wearing this old-timey, like, 1700s looking dress, and bonnet, like one of those that covers your whole head, except for maybe the base of your neck, and has frills on the front, I think. It's vaguely in my mind. That was so long ago. I was in middle school. But I saw her walking up there, and I was just struck dumb with how historically accurate it would have been for a lady like that to be at a church like that. I'm a history nerd, and I was back then, and I am now. And I turned around and called my mom, and when I turned back, she was gone. And the door was slightly open. And it was dark inside, there was nothing there, and I was freaked out, but also fascinated. And I told my mom what had happened, and she didn't really believe me, and like an idiot, I forgot to take a picture. Then again, I don't know if I would have captured her on the screen or not. And we turned to leave, and I saw at the back of the church, there was a plaque that had like 16 or 1700 built-in 16 or 1700, 17 something. It was so long ago. But I loved having a ghost story. That's the only one I have that I can think of. Thankfully, I haven't been freaked out. by anything else like that. And thank you for letting me share my story. I love you, Raythe. Thank you so much for these stories that you create. And thank you to the voice cast, who are incredible at what they do. Bye.
It was between me and my friend Queen from a while back. So this is a story from a while back. It was between me and my friend Queen. So we were at my mom's house. She has a rather large house. And I was there watching the dogs. It was a Sunday, so we had, well, it was Saturday going into Sunday that I had D&D the next morning, so we had to get up early. I was dead ass asleep in the other room across the house. That is a key factor, remember that. So I was asleep, and my friend Queen, she went to sleep on top of my mom's bed, because that was the only other bed in the house. So she was asleep, and it was getting close to when we had to wake up, but she suddenly felt a pressure on her arm. And it's like somebody was trying to wake her up. She heard my voice, remember, I'm asleep across the house, and started to kind of wake up and saw me standing there trying to wake her up. She then gets a feeling that she, under no circumstances, should be waking up. So she follows that feeling, because she has a history with being haunted by demons, and I can attest. But so she doesn't wake up, and then it starts like squeezing her arm, actively trying to wake her up, and she refuses. And that goes on for a bit until it lets go and walks away. Afterwards, she does wake up and then comes to me, and we meet together in the living room. She tells me about this. Mind you, I was asleep, and it freaks me the fuck out. So I go to my go-to nightmare helper, which is watching Princess and the Frog, surprisingly enough, to hopefully calm myself down until the sun rises. That's my story with the supernatural, but I have others.
Hello, my name.
Okay, can we hear each other? Can you hear us again?
Yes.
We're back.
Yeah.
We're back. Oh my God.
We're
Thank
back.
you both for sharing those with us. I'm so, I was listening intently. And it was so, it's interesting, I think, when you realize for a lot of these experiences that they aren't like jump scares. They're almost normal. You see a woman dressed in an historical costume by a building where you're like, wow, she could really fit in here if this was the time. And
Yeah.
then she's gone all of a
Maybe
sudden.
it is someone dressed up. Yeah, that's cool.
Right. And you're like, huh, well, wait a minute here. Or you feel something touching you, and you know that the last thing you should do is wake up, and they're trying to get you to get up, and that's like happening. It's like, oh my God. So guys, thank you so much for sharing those stories. I have one that's not as exciting, but I think it's the horror of the normal. Bright summer, sunny day. I was a teenager going to meet my friend. We were going to play tennis in the street because, as one does. And I had run upstairs to grab my racket in my bedroom. And the way my house worked was our second story. You went up the first set of stairs, and there was a landing, and my brother's room, Michael, was over the garage. And then you ran up a few more steps, and then my room was to the right. And so I had gone in there, and I was just going down that first small set of stairs to meet my friend outside. Bright, sunny day. Absolutely beautiful day. Warm. I'm thinking of tennis. I'm thinking of how I'm going to suck at tennis, but I'm very excited to go do this. My mind is certainly not on anything spooky. and then I hear them. Whispers. Almost like a badly tuned in radio at first, and I freeze on the steps. I didn't intend to stop. I wasn't like stopping like, "Oh, what's that?" I like my body literally just stops. And I'm sort of like more stunned by the strangeness of the fact that I've stopped on the stairs and I'm not moving and I'm seemingly unable to move. And I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, oh, it's my brother's radio on, but I know it's not his radio, and I just know it's not. And it's this susurrating whispering that's growing louder and louder and louder. And I can't pick out the individual voices or what they're saying, but I know two things in my mind, despite the fact that it continues to be bright and sunny. My brother's room is flooded with sunlight. There should be nothing scary in there. The two things I know: one, I will soon be able to understand what they're saying, and I do not want to know what that is. Two, if I were to step down the stairs and step into my brother's room, I will see what is making this noise. And these two things, clear as day, are in my head. Again, I am hardly alone in this house, but I know these two things that I remember thinking to myself, everything will change if I walk into that room. And here is where it doesn't make sense at all. Despite these three revelations, the fact that my body stopped, the fact that I'm hearing the whispering, I walk down the stairs past the room, again, without making any type of conscious decision to do this, and out the door and play tennis with my friend, and don't even mention it. Don't mention it happened. And I forget it happened until later on that day when I'm again going upstairs, and this time at night, and going past my brother's room. And I remember I remember this happened, and I'm like, why? How? And I think what totally, I mean, on many levels, this disturbed me, that I was so crystal clear that there was something in there. I would see it, I would hear it, and it would be really life-changing. And yet at the same time, I chose not to go look at it. Almost like the self-preservation thing. It was like my body decided, no, you're not doing that. You're just going on. But why did I forget? Why did I go on and act like nothing had happened? And that, I think, was the most disturbing, because I realized I was not in control completely of what the hell was going on there, even more so than whatever was happening in my brother's room. Never happened again after that, but I can't explain it, but that's what happened.
Oh, I could listen to your stories all day, guys. This is great for me.
Excellent.
I think last year I told my best material. Did I, maybe you guys remember, did I tell you the story about when I went to Halifax with my aunt and my my uncle and my dad and my sister, and we were staying in the haunted hotel room? Did I tell that story last year?
If you did, I'd like to hear it again.
All right. So I was probably about 8. My sister was probably about 6. We were very young. And we went to Halifax with my aunt and my uncle and my cousin Danny. And we went because my aunt wanted to do some family history research. My grandfather had just died, so her dad and my dad's dad had just passed away. And so she was just like, it was going to be a nice trip for us all to sort of just get in touch with our roots and meet a few people from who were related to that we'd never met. And we had a great time. I mean, it was ridiculous, and I got to eat donuts for breakfast, and that, to me, that was the highlight of the trip. Donuts for breakfast in bed. We spent a lot of time in cemeteries making like etchings of gravestones for fun, for my aunt to keep. And then, but one night in the hotel room, so I was dead asleep. My sister was dead asleep, and my cousin was dead asleep. The three of us, we were in our own room. We didn't hear any of this. But my dad said that he woke up in the middle of the night, and he could hear just like moaning and groaning. And he was just, at first he was like, oh my God, my sister and her husband are going out.
Oh
I have to
no!
listen to this.
Frightening in its own way.
Horrifying in its own right.
Right.
Yeah, horror. It's a horror story all into itself. But then he realized it was more. It was like it was just a man, and B, it was also. It didn't sound like happy groaning and moaning. He was like, and it just kept getting louder and louder, and he couldn't sleep. Meanwhile, my aunt and my uncle in their room, my uncle was dead asleep the whole night, didn't hear anything. My aunt woke up in the middle of the night, the same time my dad did. And there was a man sitting at the end of her bed, putting on his shoes.
Oh.
And she was convinced it was my grandfather, the one who had just passed away. And apparently he was there for a very long time. He never said anything. He was just putting on his shoes. And I guess she fell asleep eventually. Anyway, the next morning they get up and my dad was like, "Did you hear like that ungodly noise at 2 a.m?" He was just like, it was just like somebody out, some guy outside moaning and groaning. And it was endless. And it went on for hours. And my aunt said, "No, but there was this man sitting at the end of my bed last night. And I swear to God, it was Dad." And they resolved not to tell my sister, myself, or my cousin, because they thought we would get really, really scared and then wouldn't want to stay in the hotel.
Oh God.
But we did find out years later. They told us what had happened, and why we did eventually change hotels, because it kept happening.
Jesus.
And then on the same trip, I was saying we were going to go visit some family members, and one of our family members had a friend over when we came over, and she was a psychic medium. And my aunt comes into the room, and we're all sitting in the kitchen, and this woman is like, "I'm so sorry, I have to leave." And she just like went to the other room. And my aunt was like, "I'm sorry." Did I do something to offend her? She just couldn't stop staring at me, and then she left. And then she says, "Excuse me, I gotta leave." And it turns out that she was getting like so much energy, like negative energy from my aunt, that she couldn't sit in the room anymore.
Oh wow.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So that was that trip. Again, I didn't hear about it until years later, because they didn't want to scare us. But
didn't want to scare you. Yeah, they wanted it to be okay, so you wouldn't associate it with.
And for my dad to say this, I mean, he loved telling stories, but this was like, my dad did not believe in any of this stuff. So for him to be like, "Yeah, look, I can't explain it. All I know is what I heard and what your aunt says she saw. And that's all I can say about it." And I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
And I needed some sleep.
I always think that, the things that happen that are scary are not what you would think. I think I told this story last time, which is totally weird. But my best friend at the time were playing Mario Brothers on the screen. We were playing Mario Brothers, and we were drinking Cokes, and again in high school, and everything happened in this house. Like you, we actually had someone who claimed to be psychic come to the house, and she literally left and said, "I will never go in there again." I love that house, but I'll be honest with you, things happened there, and they've never happened since. So that house had something with it. But so she and I had been playing video games, drinking Coke, having fun, and making popcorn, and we had the basically the television and everything. The television room was in the back of the house, and we had a massive backyard, and we even had a way backyard. It was huge, and it was pitch black there because the street lights. I swear, basically the more the neighborhood, the less streetlights there were. We were definitely poor, but we lived in a really nice area because my father had money before the divorce. So, but mom still kept the house. So we lived there without the heat on because we couldn't afford it and all this kind of stuff. But anyway, so I was crossing so there's a whole wall of windows in the back. There was basically the living room where we were, playing playing the game. Then there was like the dining room, and then the kitchen was a little bit further in. And I was going to go get us more snacks. And I was passing from this, television room into the dining room and looking out. I just happened to glance out the windows in the back, and I saw a figure that was made of pure white light. I don't know if anyone's ever seen a Cyberman, like, Doctor Who, like the Cybermen.
Mhm.
That's the outline of it, but you could not see any details of it. And it was made of, it looked like it was completely glowing, almost like a cutout in the actual darkness. It wasn't a reflection from the television or anything like that, because it was in the yeah. And I'm staring at this thing, and I called to my friend and I said, "Do you see this?" And she had been just, she'd been playing the game. She put the game on, she put the game down and turned, and she's like, "What the hell is that?" And then she comes over to me. We're both staring at this thing. It's walking towards the windows. It's walking from the backyard towards the goddamn windows, and the two of us, like idiots, are standing there simply watching it. And it gets to about 4 feet from the windows, and we're both, it's only at that point in time. Now, it was summer. We had, I think there was a screen door open. There was the back door was just feet from this thing. It could have just gone in. There's no lock on there. We didn't have a lock on there because, again, different times and stuff like that, although there were more serial killers back then. But anyway, I digress. This thing comes to 4 feet from the windows. She and I are staring at it, just at first just conversing about it, because it's as tall as a man, probably more like 6 to 7 feet tall. No distinguishing features, just like this like light. And once it gets there, suddenly both of our knees give out, and we like crouch down, like basically fall to the ground behind the table as this thing is there. And I'm like, the back door is open. It's not locked. And she's just like, we have to go lock it. We have to go lock it. I'm like, no, it's going to come in. And I don't know how long it took me to finally move, but I'm going to move towards the back door. And here's the thing. When we got up, it was walking back out, and then it was just gone. And I'll tell you, and again, you know what we did after that? I mean, we talked about it, but then we went back to playing our game. This does not make any sense. Like, why?
But
And
what
I
else are you
always
supposed to do? Like, stand there in fear for the rest of your life? I mean, I feel like it's actually fairly natural to be like, okay, well, I guess that happened.
Wouldn't you go investigate it to see if it left any marks or anything like that?
No.
That would have been
Oh my God, don't go out into the backyard. No.
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 I mean, and I still can't get over the fact that this happened, and I was like, she saw it too, so I wasn't crazy, but it wasn't like something someone could have just done with like I can't even explain it. You couldn't have actually created this thing and like been like, a kid, and it did disappear. It didn't just suddenly just walk away and I mean, it just was gone after a certain point. And I was like, okay, what was that? And we were like, was it a spaceman? Like, it's almost like, Close Encounters of the Third Kind or a ghost. Who the hell knows? Yeah. It was so strange. I still think of that, but it was always at this house. And I have one other one that I will tell, but I first want to know, Vanessa or Edward, do you have a scary story you can tell that happened to you or to someone you know or that you heard?
No, I'm boring.
Oh God.
I used to have terrible nightmares as a child, and a lot about being chased. I had a lot of fear of the dark, and because I spent a lot of times out in the bush and by myself, and I enjoyed all of that. But some of the things I've heard out there while alone, not like kites, like that, but I've heard things.
That's a cat, guys.
and especially when you travel and you're not used to the sounds around you, it can really freak you out. But I remember vividly as a child being pursued regularly by something in my dreams, and then one night I, for whatever reason, in this dream of being pursued, just stopped and turned around to see what it was that was just there pursuing me. That terror that I knew was right there, and it was me.
No way! Oh
And
my
then
God!
I began pursuing other things, and I've never had nightmares like that since.
Whoa.
And I'm also that person that encourages people to do terrible things, like in horror movies.
Yeah.
In working with actors, working on something, and being out and having a lovely campfire in the woods and really having a lovely, lovely time. And we were working on some material that some people would consider, blasphemous or dangerous or supernatural. So the Scottish play.
Ooh.
And there's challenging the actors to simply turn around from the firelight, go right to the edge of the firelight, and then just to speak those words out into the dark.
Oh.
And they did that. People refused to. People who are like, well, I'm not superstitious, but no, I'm not going to do that.
I'm not going
do
to roll the dice there. Leisurely Panda says, a wonderful, my God, another $20 super chat. The only stories I've ever heard have been from one friend. I keep trying to get her to listen to your stories. Thank you. She was told by multiple psychics that she was a madam of a brothel in a past life. I hope does that make her happy or unhappy? Or that's so random. Oh, good Lord. Oh, good Lord. But Leisurely Panda, you were always so awesome for all your support. Thank you so much, you and King Juan. This was fantastic. So what about you, Vanessa? We haven't heard if you had anything supernatural happen to you or strange anyway.
Yeah, I've had a couple of things. I must apologize. That was my kitty, who is very much,
sweet.
Please, I need to be in the room where things are happening. And then as soon as I let him in, he's like, how dare you imprison me in this room? I must escape.
Yes, yes.
He's also figured out how to pound on the door. So if you hear like, thump, 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 thump,
Oh, yeah, of course.
This thing, I had an aunt who was terrified of cats, and our cat did that when she was staying over in the middle of the night because they closed the door and the kitty wanted to come snuggle and then threw herself bodily at the door and meowed. The woman was terrified. Well, I do lots of things that other people might consider terrifying, but usually for me it's afterwards. I go, I could have been dead.
Oh.
Swimming with sharks and things and going, I'll take a picture of that because it's cool. Not
it only occurs to you later on that, my God, that was not smart.
Yeah,
I've had a few of those, but nothing supernatural. It's always things where you're like, wow, that could have gone terribly, terribly wrong. And
tell us one, man. Tell us one.
Oh, no. Speaking of cats, though, the other night I was fast asleep. It was about 4 a.m, and it's still quite warm here. So I had my window a little bit open with the screen on it. And I was awakened by this noise from my cat that I have never heard before. Just this shriek, this roar. And then he was like, he ran and jumped up onto the window and was just like hissing. And like there was something out there, but he was trying to like get out and get at it. And so I was like, God, do I want to go and look what's out there? And I don't, I looked and I didn't see anything. But that the adrenaline and the like, what are you doing? What is out there that is so upsetting to it? It was probably like a raccoon or something, but it was just that, waking up in that, oh my God, what is happening? What is out there?
Like,
why
what's going on? Yes.
In a way that you have not ever before. And do I want to look out that window to see what it is?
Well, who hasn't had a cat that's gone to the corner of the room where there's nothing there and stares at something?
Oh, yeah.
And I've looked for the bug. I've looked for a light. I've looked for something to get them. They're just standing there. I think there's actually a cartoon where it shows the cat basically talking to Ghost, being like, yeah, well, if you do this, I'll, pretend that you're here so that they'll know.
Or the cat's messing with you.
I know. It's totally, well, that's accurate too. But normally she only messes with me when she wants food, pets, or something. She's actually sleeping in the bed right now, and she kicks me out in the morning because I love to sleep in. I love sleep. And but she thinks of the bed as hers. And she allows me to be there for a certain amount of time. And then I must leave so she can have the entire queen-sized bed to herself. She weighs less than 8 pounds.
Oh.
But
you're
she's
just
going to have it all.
The race. That's the thing. And you have to tolerate it. And when
Yeah.
she wants your warmth, yes.
Yes. Well, I love it when she, during like this time when she will snuggle with me because she does want warmth, but it's clear that she just wants warmth. I love her to bits
At
right
least she's
now.
honest.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm like, okay, all right, this makes sense. This is all good. There is one other story I want to tell you guys again at that house again when I was a teenager. Like I said, because when I stopped living there, like these things all stopped. And I was like, oh, did I grow out of it? But I'm like, no, it was the house. So now I'll give you I got a Ouija board when I was, the Hasbro one. I don't know if you guys ever remember those.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
they still sell
Classic.
them.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I
Love
don't
it.
want you to think that I think that anything can be used. You don't actually need one, but it was my game, and like my friend Sharon and I were playing with it for Christmas, right after Christmas, and I was like convinced she was pushing it and she was convinced I was pushing it. And we supposedly was talking to this ghost or entity. And we were like, oh, you're not real, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, well, I'll come tonight to the back door. Again, that freaking back door, which had literally a push button lock. That was like so not safe. At 2 a.m. I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. So again, we stop it. And I'm not up at 2 a.m. because we were like maybe like 14. So it wasn't like I was a night owl at the time, but I admit I wasn't up then. Now I would be. And the next morning I noticed that there was my brother's bat by the back door. I was like, and my brother and mother were talking about something. I'm like, what's going on? They're like, oh, someone came to the back door last night.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, around 2 a.m. somebody was at the door banging on the back door. And I just like, I literally, all the color drained from my face. And I'm like, are you serious? You're not, I thought maybe they had heard what Sharon and I had been talking about. And they're like, yeah. They're like, well, we're keeping it locked. So if you hear something, don't come down. That's what the bat's there for. Your brother's gonna like chase him off. I'm like, oh, okay. And it happened for 3 nights in succession.
Oh
And I
wow.
never went down. Yeah, I never went down. And Sharon and I, like, we actually did use the Ouija board, and I didn't tell her what had happened, but remember, I knew, so it could be me pushing it. But at the same time, it said, "Why didn't you come?" And I was like, I'm never freaking coming again. Thank you very much. Not going to happen. Yeah, I'm telling you, that house. We have another super chat from the wonderful Lily. She said, as a kid, playing in the forest at dark is something I did often. But hearing Wendigo screams definitely makes you not want to be out there at dark. The Wendigo scares the living crap out of me.
Hey,
All
you know
those
what?
stories
A
about it.
lot of people are afraid of Wendigo and skinwalkers too.
Yes.
It seems to be like actually something that is in the society's conscious, I'm afraid of this specific thing.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the skinwalkers are so different than, they are shifters, but not. They're terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. They just seem, it is like almost like a, oh, what's that word I'm looking for? When it's just like, it's a visceral type reaction to them. Oh, good God.
Yes, a lot of people have that. As you all know, I'm Eastern European, and growing up, my grandmother always told us stories, and we have like all the books about Baba Yaga. I don't know if any of you guys know about her, but she's a super interesting sort of leftover pagan goddess character in Slavic mythology. But my grandmother would tell me these stories where she would be like, oh, if you look in the mirror too much, Baba Yaga can come out and pull you back in with her.
Yikes. Oh my God. That's making it into a story.
Yeah. And I remember I would cover the mirror. I had this big mirror in my bedroom growing up, and I would cover it. The chicken leg house. Yes.
The chicken leg house.
Exactly
Yes.
yes, Ariel. Yes. Yeah. And you got a poll in here saying, I know about her. Yes. but she wasn't like somebody necessarily that you should be afraid of. I mean, my grandmother, I think, used her in that way sometimes, but she wasn't good or bad. She's sort of just, she's a neutral character, so she can do good things and she can do bad things. I think she's a wholly unique character altogether. She can be old, she can be young, she can be multiple people. Yeah, I find her a really fascinating character. Highly recommend that if any of you haven't read about her, to pick up some books about her, read some of her stories. There's a few Russian stories, Ukrainian stories that are written out, and I always find them. Yeah, she's like a force of nature. She is nature. I think she's. I mean, if you could think of her, maybe like a good equivalent would be like Kali. The Hindu god of like sort of life and destruction. She could do great goods, great bads, but most of the time they come together. Yeah, so she's an interesting character and definitely used in to scare children.
Edward, you were trying to say something too?
Oh yeah, it's that wonderful idea of, is water good or bad?
Right.
If you're thirsty, it's great. If you're drowning, it's terrible. Fire, if you're cold, is good. If your house is on fire, not so good. And I think Baba Yaga very much is that sort of elemental, primal thing of, the woods are wonderful and give us everything we want, but if you get lost in them, it can be terrifying. And so I think when you meet her, she asks you what you want and why you're there. And if you lie to her or try to dissemble, she usually ends up eating you.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
With her iron teeth. But if
she has teeth.
Yeah.
Her teeth. Yeah, her teeth are iron nails.
Oh my God.
And that broom association that we've heard about is she sweeps away her tracks in the woods with a broom. So she leaves
wow.
passes. Lots of.
But she flies like with a pestle and mortar.
Yes.
She doesn't fly on a broom.
No, she doesn't. She uses that to sweep away any trace of her. Yeah.
And her house. And
she's lovely. She's like a proto fairy godmother in some of those tales. So you have that sort of Cinderella type character who's wandering in the woods and encounters her. And she's
just as likely to eat Hansel and Gretel.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, their protein. You've seen those survival shows.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
And there's also the fear of, there's a huge fear in our society of being old.
Yes.
Getting old and weak, and old people. I'm working on some stuff now about with older people as the older people horror. I think that's, to me, that's a huge thing of being locked up in some place and forgotten or not cared about. And yeah.
Fortunately, it's a horror that many of us will experience. This year, many of you know my mom passed, but I'm also 49, so I'm going to be turning 50 next year. And I have to admit, the thought has crossed my mind about how much time do I have left, rather than the thoughts that I've had before, like, that endless spool of ahead of you. And it's like, oh, wait, maybe I could see the end of that spool. So yes, I think you're right, Edward. There is such a horror of growing old and of dying. I had a friend in England who, when I went to school there, and we were having a deep philosophical discussion, and I said, well, do you believe that there's something after this life? Right. And she goes, the cruelest thing is if there isn't. She's like, because unlike, because we actually have consciousness that we end, which is just like, it's really cruel. Although I think that obviously animals clearly, have an understanding of, pain and death. So they do too. But she's like, we very much are aware that, that there's an end point. And that's just a really cruel thing to do to a conscious living being. I'm like, well, I guess, if you agree to play the game, you have to agree to stop at some point. But yeah.
I think my idea is the fact that I exist is incredible. The fact that I've met you, that I'm doing these things, is amazing. And I do have limited time. And that's what makes this valuable. My time, your time, my relationships. So to choose to live well now. And if there's something after, well, it's a bonus round.
Right.
If not, then I regret nothing.
Right. I think that there's like, for me, like that I've been having to wrestle with, not just about this issue, but about any issue, is the fact that what is the cost of worrying about something you cannot change is that you are not enjoying the time that you have right now. That
So
to me,
true.
yeah, and then I'm still having to I'm working through that. It's trying for sure. Let me just for a moment break away from this because Leisurely Panda again
Mm-hmm.
gave us a super chat this time for $10.
Oh,
Oh my
God,
God.
so sweet.
Guys, this has been really amazing. Thank you. We don't expect this stuff. We love that you will do it. Yes. Wait, Edward, you must do
Edward's
something
doing
more.
All right.
He's
I may have a
limited.
sound.
He's just learning.
He's learning the soundboard.
Yeah.
I still
Give him-
want that
give him-
damn.
give her-
Is it the lamb? The lamb scream,
screaming.
please.
Do the screaming. Oh, the screaming goat.
I'll
Yes.
put it on the sound pad. I'll go download it.
Excellent.
I was thinking about putting on Adam's "Vampires Are Real."
Yes. Yes, you have to do that.
Oh, please.
You have to do
I
that.
have so many takes. I really, really want to do a bloopers reel, which is just Adam like on a continuous loop saying vampires are
Vampires
real
are
every
real.
time he says it. It's
Oh
my
my
favorite
God.
line. My
number.
favorite line.
Oh my God, man. Yeah, each of the serials starts out with that, by the way.
Yes.
Oh, so
Um,
good.
What has Panda told us?
Leisurely Panda is actually
Leisurely.
talking about the Night Prince. So,
Mm.
do you think that the Sun Elves tell horror stories about the Night Elves like this? So, the Night Prince is about our world. Essentially, it's a new serial. Our world where something called the Leviathan broke through from a place called the Underdark, and in order to save us, elves and dwarves and orcs and all this kind of stuff revealed that they were actually real, and they came in and they pushed back the Leviathan in the Underdark, and now they're our neighbors. Humanity lives with
Oh, I like
high
this.
fantasy beings, and how that's changed
And
the
it's
world.
and it's like modern humans, right?
Yes, modern
Yeah.
humans.
Okay.
So it's
I'll
us
have to
right
read
now
this now.
if this happened. And how would we adapt to this? Sort of like how, how would humanity adapt to vampires? This is how would you deal with the fact that there are elves that are immortal and can use magic? Which is really funny. Like, how would that change things for the society? And but one of the things is that there are these beings called the Kindreth. They're called the Night Elves, and they live supposedly in the Underdark, and they disappeared from the world long ago. They continued to go down deeper into the Underdark, seeking greater magics, but they were sort of like the boogeymen.
Always a good idea. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And so the Sun Elves are the ones. They're called the Arave, and they are the ones that saved humanity, and they use the power of the sun in order to blast away the creatures of the darkness. But the Night Elves are known for their powerful magic, their use of blood weapons, their incredible underground cities, their white hair and red eyes, and also their absolute ruthlessness. And their king is called Zelroth Vex. He's the Night King. And to see him is to basically perish if he comes into you. He's surrounded by a cloak of magic that's so powerful you can smell ozone in the air from it. That's how he's around. So the Sun Elves do fear the Night Elves, and they are the boogeyman of every single person in this new series. And of course, you know what that means. That means they're coming. So, so that's gonna be a really good time.
They're coming,
so, yes.
and they're sexy.
See, yes, they are. I am thoroughly enjoying writing this and sharing it with people. So that is the newest one. And even if you are not members, you can actually hear. I'm just going to do a tiny bit of proselytizing to come join us at the site. But you can read you're going to be able to read up to chapter 5 for free. So if you want to check that out, you can. So you have to forgive me. But yes, so Leisurely Panda, yes, they do talk about the night elves just like this.
I love it.
I know, it's like awesome.
Everybody's saying things that live in the dark are bad and things that live in the light are good.
Yes.
It's always been, for me, it's been night hides all of the awful things that I have to look at during the day. So again, I think night is quite beautiful. But I guess it's fear of the unknown, isn't it? Like people who don't like being out in the deep ocean and knowing, oh yeah, there's 3 miles down. What's under?
Nope, I don't like that.
Well,
I'm
what's going to be
I'm
really
one of those people.
What's going to be really interesting is that, of course, this is not as it's not as black and white as it seems at all. In fact, the night elves and the sun elves are related. And there's a lot to be said for their society. And there's a lot to understand about why their society is as it is. It's going to be fascinating. Vex put it this way, as sort of a Faustian character and Whaleware, but we will see. I don't want to give too much away.
Spoilers.
I love it.
I know. It's so many spoilers. It's so many spoilers. And of course, everyone has some cat stories to tell of cats behaving strangely, Vanessa. So you are not alone. Okay, one thing that I did want to ask you guys is, have you been in any horror movies or television shows or plays that you can tell us about?
Yes. What do you want to know?
Well, is it different than doing, like, for example, comedies or tragedies in a way of how you, I don't know, how it is to be in it, or is it just the same? Is it creepy at all?
No, was my experiences. It's actually more fun because you know what you're doing. And I'm going to ruin it all for you. What you see on the screen is a carefully manicured product with, music and editing and color correction. You have no idea how many hours it takes to put together. Raythe, you can speak to this as an artist. About how long it takes to finesse what the actor just stands there and goes, vampires are real. When you're
I mean, look, it could be a comedy, it could be a drama, or it could be a horror, depending on what kind of music you put behind it, what kind of lighting is on, what angle the camera is at. Makes all of the difference.
And the best thing about doing these things is everyone's consenting to and having fun doing it. So when you're covered in fake blood that tastes like chocolate sometimes,
it's not quite the same.
You look at yourself and I just get the giggles because I know I'm completely safe. We're having fun making this movie. And then it's like, oh, could you die again, but with more of this?
Right, with more of this. Oh my God.
I've had
I
sympathy
wasn't
for the guy in the monster suit too. If you're wearing all of those prosthetic, heavy bodysuit, which is rubber with layers and layers of makeup, they've been in that chair for hours beforehand. And then they have to chase you around the place inside a rubber suit. And you're there all day. So there's a lot of sympathy for the devil, so to speak, when you're like, you all right? Do you want to sit down? Look, I think they're a wonderful thing to do and even to create, to be like, oh, how can we make this scarier? And it's when you look at the finished vehicle, especially surrounded by an audience watching it and agreeing to the fiction that this is our story, then it can become fun and scary and spooky, and that's a whole other thing. But the making of it, like making sausages, you probably
yes. No, that does
I
make
have
sense.
I have a friend who is a scream queen, and she and I have been friends for a long time, but she has basically made her entire acting career has been doing horror movies, and she's very popular. I'm not naming names, but she was doing a movie. There's a place here in Vancouver called Colony Farm. And you guys have probably seen it if you've ever seen any show that's been filmed here, The X-Files, any horror movie every movie ever been filmed here has filmed at Colony Farm. It's the old Riverview insane asylum. And it was closed in the 80s, 90s, early 90s, but some of the buildings are as old as the early 1800s. And so horror movies film there all the time, or like spooky TV shows and stuff like that. And she was there filming in the basement. And she said it was petrifying and they could not get a clear shot because there were so many like orbs of light that kept sort of like, it's probably dust being lit by the big heavy lights that you need in those really dark basement tunnels. but she was like, they just couldn't get they could not get a clean shot for the life of them. It was 3 days trying to get the same shot, and they eventually just had to change the place they were filming in because it was so bad, and it just like orbs of light floating through every single shot.
Wow.
Yeah, so make of that what you will. But yeah, she has some good stories from some of the places, but Colony Farm you can actually just go up there and walk around outside. It's quite beautiful. It's still partially open for some outpatient care, and they've been talking for years about rebuilding it and tearing down some of the old buildings, but I think it makes too much money for the city as a filming location.
Yes, you're like, no, we want you to keep this ruin.
Yeah, but we desperately need it for a lot of our homeless population in Vancouver is because Colony Farm did close, and just sort of all these people who are not necessarily med compliant just got released with no family to take care of them or anything like that. And this is the result, is that you end up with a huge societal issue, and nowhere for people to go.
Well, we had that in the 70s and 80s in the US. They shut down a lot of asylums, and it's been the same thing. It's been growing. Illinois especially did that because I thought it would be quote unquote cheaper.
Yes, just having everybody in this outpatient thing, but it's not cheaper, and it's painful for human beings who need help. You know.
Absolutely. And it's just
there a bunch of times, and it is a wonderful, wonderful space, and it can be dressed up for lots of use. I've seen it, shot stuff there at the beginning of the year, and it is eerie and spooky. Wonderful how if you allow your mind to do that, you will find something to scare you. Versus, for me, I think it's amazing and wonderful, and I find the joy there and the excitement of being there, so I'm just not affected that way. There was a question about people being affected by stuff. I think many people who are very sensitive can have traumatic experiences of a lot of things. And honestly, for me, things like psychological horror or realism, I find that a lot more difficult to deal with. So playing a character who is abusive or using substances or mentally unwell, I find that a lot more taxing to do, and a lot more. I find myself going home and worrying and wondering about that. Horror movies, honestly, I love them. I think they're so much fun, and I want to make. It sounds funny, but I want to make romance horror movies.
I'd love it.
Yes,
I love it.
Romance horror, because I like it.
What would you consider a romance horror now? Like You? Although that's more, again, serial killers. It's fine.
We're all fans here of Everdark and doing things. I think there's a very close link into many people's feelings of, I don't say eroticism. That's not a word. Is that a word? But
eroticism?
Being turned on, there can be a fear element there as well. And I think that's done well in some places. So
let me just turn aside for one moment because Mara had a question. Again, it's a little promotional question. Is The Night Prince only on podcast on the member site, or will a written version be under the library tab too? Mara, it is written, and it is also, I read it poorly. No, I mean, I read it great. It's awesome.
You read it great.
I do. You should hear my Scottish accent, Edward. It's about as good as my Russian. But I'm enjoying it.
Raythe, it can't be any worse than mine.
Oh, yes, it can. Let me just explain. The Night Prince is a new serial. One of the things that I'm doing right now, because so many people are joining because of Everdark, because of the podcast, and wanting to listen to the stories. And a lot of people I know like listen on the way to work or have it on their headphones. They don't have time to read. I have decided that for at least certain of the new serials coming out, I will be doing an audio version. But Her Grace Reeves does not have time to do Raythe Rain all the time. They have other things they're doing. So it's got to be me. I can't. And this is something that I just want to thank all of you guys about. Everyone's like, oh, well, you could hire out again, I'm like, I would not want anyone other than Edward, Hannah, Vanessa, Jay, and stuff.
Thank you so much.
That experience of this with them is so awesome. It's this huge undertaking, as you know, it's huge, guys, for them to basically do the equivalent of 9 audiobooks, full cast, all of it. I mean, it's huge, and each one is like 8 hours. It's a huge amount of work, and to have it at the quality that they do, and get it to us in a timely fashion, and for us to have it up every week on both the podcast and the member site. It's massive. It's a massive undertaking, but I know that I wanted to give more people some more audio because I love audio. So I am reading The Night Prince, and it is nowhere near as good.
You should definitely have do a live stream and have Edward on as a guest, though, to read.
Oh my God, yes.
Well, you're volunteering me now, Hannah. Thank you.
It is. She is, and I love it.
One episode.
I love it.
Just one episode.
So I think that if I didn't already know it, because when I've just been doing it for fun, like when I first did Dragon's Reign for fun, and like we'd have the cat mewing in the background, trains, sirens, and didn't care. It's not that I didn't care. I did care, but it was like, oh, this is sort of a lark. It was during the pandemic. I can't tell you how much even more respect I have for these guys. I'm like, holy crap, I can't keep the voice the same within the same chapter, let alone between chapter 1 and 97. But I'm having a blast.
My agent just sent me an article. Apparently this style, not just this style of like full cast sort of radio play style reading, is it getting more popular, but now Harlequin Romances is going to be doing podcasts of something like 56 of their books. So basically I feel like they've listened to Raythe Rain and was like, you know what, we could do that too. I think they can, but they could try.
That's
well, they won't have the loyal fans and be able to talk about it like we do. So
no, they will not.
Yes, that's true.
Not. Well, I always wonder, although, I give Harlequin credit. They're the first ones who really understood the power of the romance novel and the power of the emotional fantasy. They were able to break things into different lines based on basically what would, if you wanted a consistent James Patterson approach to your, it's not really your kink, but whatever like emotional fantasy you had about a person, you would have your, they really did understand that. So I am curious how they will do, because one of the things, what I am worried about though, is Harlequin is cheap. They are notoriously cheap. And
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Raythe, a lot of producers, the big producers, oh my God, not that I don't want them to hire us, but I probably wouldn't, I don't think any of our actors would work for what they pay. But even like Penguin Random House and stuff like that, like, yeah, it would be great to do. I would love to work with them on some of the, especially on some of their projects. Like they own the rights, the audio rights to a lot of great books that I would love to work on, but they don't pay like enough, not even like a fraction of what I would normally make. And I just can't who can justify that? Like I'm just like, and they have a monopoly, so they can charge whatever they can pay you whatever they want. That is really
depressing. I had always assumed, wrongly obviously, that at least the big houses were giving a higher rate, but evidently not
at all.
Lower. They give, that's why I think there's a lot of people who do it for themselves. Yeah, much lower.
Oh God.
Like depressingly not even minimum wage sometimes.
They do things like hiring a bunch of people. So you'll go into a session and you'll have an engineer and a director with you, or 3 people at once. So they all have to be paid, plus they're hiring a studio. So there's a lot of overhead there, which means that, as always, the artists get paid last.
Right.
And the lowest amount. And it's a lot of work, because I have done ones where you'll go in and you'll start the work and you've got an entire book to read. And sometimes, especially with newer directors, because people don't stick around to direct audiobooks like that, I'm afraid, prove that they're involved and put their stamp on the work. So you'll do a line of text and they'll go, great. Can you just go back and maybe say that again with a little more purple?
Oh my God, a little more purple.
Breaks the flow, or, and you have to go and do it again and go, Yes, take me. If you could just say it flat, yes, take me. No, more enthusiastic, and then it all goes. It's terrible.
God.
And that is anathema when you're working on these long format audio stuff. You can't just stop and start people like that, because it will take you weeks to record something that should take days, if that's how you're going at it. And again, the actor's not getting paid more because the actor gets paid per finished hour. So it doesn't matter how long it takes them to get it right. They don't get paid anymore. So yeah,
guys, what that means is per finished hour is, it means, okay, let's say an audiobook's 8 hours. Let's say, and they don't get, but let's say they get $100 for finished hour, so they would get $800. But what if it took, but every hour of audio may take them 10 hours to record. So does that make sense? So really what they're getting is $10 an hour for their work. And so if somebody keeps, if they require you to spend a heck of a lot more time, they're still paying you a flat rate in a way. I mean, that's what it is. It's just your amount per hour that goes down.
That's correct. Yeah. And then if you have, and there are many people who think, oh, I want to be a narrator, and then they are asked to do the editing as well, which can take double to 6 times, depending on if you're doing 1 voice, 2 voices, 6 voices, to match, to master, to EQ, to do all these things. So suddenly that rate of, wow, who wouldn't like $100 an hour? That sounds amazing. Yeah, except it takes you 6 hours and you get paid $100.
Right.
The real hourly rate becomes a minimum wage job with no skills. So don't fall into the traps, darlings. Read the contract.
Yes, that's really true. I mean, and that's something that, I mean, even I mean, these guys give me a hugely discounted rate for everything I'm getting from them. They do everything for me. So I want you guys to know that I probably couldn't pay them what they're worth. But I pay them what we can, and I keep hoping every time. Obviously, we have a plan going forward, but we're not going to tell you what that plan is yet. Although I want to read this question. Since Everdark books are on Amazon, will Everdark Academy be also? Well, I want you to think about something. When do we put out the Everdark books? When there's an audiobook to go along with it. Right? So if I were to put Everdark Academy on Amazon, what would have to go with it? It would not on Audible, but what might have to go with it? And how did that happen? We'll just leave it there. We'll just leave that there. Because we're not ready yet to discuss that. Yeah, no. But I think you should just keep that in the mind, in the back of the pocket.
Yeah. If you're liking this, then there might be something in the future for you.
Exactly. But just going back one more second to the Night Prince and just sort of like just some promotional stuff. And actually I haven't done the giveaway yet. Oh my God. We have some giveaways we have to do too. So actually, Kat, let's do a giveaway. I'm going to do the first volume of the Everdark manga, War Child. If you would like your own copy of the War Child manga, volume 1, please put the word frost in the chat. F-R-O-S-T, frost, please. And now the chat's not moving at all. And nobody wants this awesome manga. It's an awesome manga. I know
Everybody's
they do.
Just like, no.
There we go. Now it's like breaking out.
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't need that. I know. I'm like, so basically,
there might be a delay on our system.
Yes. There might be a huge delay on our system. So what's going to happen is that Nightbot will choose one of you randomly. And then what you need to do is you need to email marketing@raytherain.com, and Kat will give you a coupon code that you take to our shop, and you use that on checkout and you get the thing free. So we'll find out who. Oh, here we go. Nightbot says that Claude Morelier, and he is French, and I'm totally gutting that his word. I'm so sorry. He won. Claude, you won. Claude. So Claude, you definitely please contact Kat at marketing@raytherain.com, marketing@raytherain.com. She will give you a coupon code and you will get the manga for free. And by the way, that is a scary manga. That is a scary manga. So that is the fun thing. We're also going to do a Werewolf Next Door. We're going to give that away as well. But okay, what the hell was I talking about? Oh yeah. Okay, back to just some promotional bit for a minute, and then we'll continue on with the fun stuff. So what is going to happen here is, so for a long time, I've had the serial site since 2010, and I was convinced of a couple things that were probably true and probably not true. People kept asking me if they could buy the serials individually, or, you know, and I was like, or they have hardcovers of them or audio of them. And I was always, no. First of all, we are 3 raccoons in a trench coat over here at Raythe Rain. So not having a partner like Her Grace Reads until relatively recently, there was no way it was going to happen. No possible way. I told you guys the horror stories about the actors who did my voiceover work who wouldn't edit at all.
Oh, that's
yeah. And I was paying them top rate. Yeah. No,
God.
not at all. They said it just wasn't worth it. I am still, I'm almost still determined, to be honest with you, to, if, you know, somehow if Edward ever had like chink of light in his thing, to redo the Vampire Club series, because I want that actor wiped away from the dust. And but I know it's more vampires. I'm sorry, Edward.
We'll talk. Well, we can talk about this in the new year, because we're going to be making some changes over here too in the new year. So,
gotcha.
You know, we're feeling like, oh, we're spending so much time on everybody else's work. Let's do the stuff that, not that I don't like working on everybody's work that we do. It's just that we want to work on some of our own stuff, and we want to put more focus on working with you next year too, on, you know, that project that we may or may not be doing.
Right. Good times. Yeah.
So we can talk. We'll talk about it. We'll have conversations about it later.
All right. Well, that's excellent. Yes. So I just feel like what was really ironic, and I just have to bitch for 1 second, and I swear I'll stop because it's not fair. But I never got my revenge on this guy. I paid him top dollar. He was a no-name nobody. He had no other work, and he crapped out before the end of book 7. There was 1 book left, and he wouldn't do it. And I'm like,
geez, really?
Yeah. And so I had to get someone else to do it who did, you know, as good a job as I can, but they were terrible too. And that, when I hired Edward and Hannah for the first books they did for me, Sinners and Ashes, I literally had to write in the description of the work, you must be willing to edit and proofread your work. And Hannah honestly asked me, remember you
I
asked
was
me,
surprised.
like, why?
Yes, I did.
Why did you put this in here?
It's in the contract.
Like, yeah,
it's in the
normal.
It's in the standard contract. Yeah. So I would be surprised if somebody was like, well, I'm just not doing it. What?
They're just not doing it. And I had one guy, another guy that liked to have breaths like in the work. I'm like, I don't want breaths, and I don't think anyone likes that, and I don't give a damn. I'm paying for it. Well, creative license says, I'm like, no, I'm telling you, I could not. I was like, I'm paying you money. If I want, you know, I get it. If you want to be, this wasn't creative though. And I take that back, because oftentimes what there's like that third artist thing, it's a good idea. But I mean, they just didn't want to do the things, because taking the breaths out would consume time. Although there's programs for that, as Kat later told me.
There are programs for it. They're not ideal. I mean, but you know, we hire someone specifically to deal with breaths. Like, we hire a separate person who deal with like breaths and maybe some weird sounds, clicks and pops and stuff like that. And that's what he does.
Yeah.
He listens to it and he edits that specific stuff by hand manually, because those sort of big sweeping AI things can also like cut out certain sounds that I don't like having cut out either. And I'm a picky bitch. Ask Edward.
I literally would have to listen to these for hours to get all the breaths and put the actual timestamp, and I would have to do all the errors that they made.
Oh my God.
And yes, I had to do all of that. They said that was my, that's why I was like with you guys. I'm like, I can't do it.
The old "my fault, your problem." Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I've got a colleague who is an audio engineer and editor for feature films. So we were chatting about this, and he was asking me about the audiobook world and thinking about quote unquote getting into it. And he said, how much content do you do? How many hours? So we talked about Everdark, and his eyebrows went higher and higher into his hairline. He works on Hallmarks and has no time as far as he's concerned. He gets a week to do a 2-hour project or a 90 minutes to an hour 50 project.
That's just editing the audio. So that's just
the audio. And he manually goes in, cleans it up, fixes everything. So he's got a week of full-time work.
Like what I would love. I would love to have that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That kind of time.
Whereas we are doing, or Hannah is doing, a normal book is say 5 to 10 hours. Everdark is hundreds. It feels like at this point.
Yes, it is. It is literally probably over. Yeah, it is. It's ridiculous.
Yep. And and quality is important. Otherwise, I'll turn it off.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't stand. There are certain things I can't stand in audio, and I will turn a podcast or a book off immediately. And one of those things is very loud breaths right into the microphone, which is one of my worst. The things that I do as an actor the most is I'd say that if we're cleaning up audio, most of it is mine and Adam's breathing. The two of us.
Kat is in the chat. I can only imagine what you say about what I do, but that's good. Yeah.
But and things like what I call dirty mouths, and that's that sort of like clicking and popping and lip smacking and that is all
weird.
That mucusy, there's mucusy sounds. Sinus sounds is another one I'm really bad at. A lot of women.
Oh God, worst.
And you learn, and the worst is like sometimes you just can't not do them. Like it's just part of how you speak, and so you sort of know that, and so you edit it out after the fact. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people just leave them in, and they use the excuse, well, it's natural. And I'm like, arsenic is natural. I still don't want to eat it. I'm certainly not going to pay you for it.
They did use that excuse. They did say it was natural and that it was normal. People needed to hear that.
Nope, they don't need to hear that.
Close up into your ear. I mean, there are things that if I'm 5 feet away from you, you don't hear. But if I'm literally in your ear hole, then there's a lot of, it's unpleasant.
It's totally different when you're listening to it as an audiobook because you normally have headphones on, or you're just you're very focused on what on the story, what they're saying. So it's even more intolerable for me anyway. But
I have been known to turn perfectly good podcasts off because I cannot stand the audio. I also hate it. One of my other pet peeves is a lot of people really like to boost the bass, and I hate to say it, but our current editor loves boosting the bass in voices, and I can't. It drives me. It's like nails across a blackboard because I like natural voices. I actually do like the natural sound. Like Edward's baritone is stunning. He doesn't really need all that extra help to make it sound better. And so I hear stuff like that, and it's a very commercial sound. Like you'd hear that a lot on like a commercial or like the trailer for a movie. That really deep rumbling bass. Yeah, exactly. And that also makes me antsy. But all of this is a matter of taste, and it's taste versus value. And I have to, we were working with a new editor and it just didn't work out. And it wasn't because he was a bad editor or anything like that. It's just he didn't understand our style and our taste and what we liked and what our clients liked. And I'm like, he kept saying, again, that excuse, it's natural, it's fine. Everybody does it in my 16 years. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But our clients hire us because we have similar taste.
Yes.
They like how we produce.
How it sounds.
Yes, exactly. They've hired us because we sound like what they would want their book to sound like. And if you don't want to deliver that for us, then we can't work with you because, you know, I'm not going to have this argument every time.
What's really weird about that is what I didn't understand. I did understand because it would take more time what I was asking him to do, and he just didn't want to. Not just he, they didn't want to pay the editor more or do it themselves, which is what they should have done. Which I told him, I said, you have to listen to this before you turn it over to me. I'm like, you can't just not. And he was like,
can I interject for a second and ask a question as both of you as professional producers? Have you found that that argument of saying I want X, and then it's males who don't want X? Let me tell you why.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It's often men. Yes.
Yes.
There is. I have to say, thank you for pointing that out. It is always men trying to tell me how to do my job, and I'm
tell
like,
you
okay,
why
well,
you don't want that.
Yes, and I'm like, well,
yeah. Sorry, Anna.
Quite a lot.
It is often, yes.
Who happen to be women who are producers and directors have to justify their existence and their artistic choices, whereas sometimes the opposite is just not true. That no one will question, you know, in that way. I'm just interested.
Well, it's funny. I mean, it's an interesting thing because I've got to say, like in my experience as an actor, working with male directors, if you have any. If you challenge them in any way or anything that they perceive as a challenge, which could be as little as a question, why would you like me to do it that way? Why would you say specifically, you know, well, she's crazy. Okay, well, what does that mean? I can't just, as an actor, I can't play crazy. Specifically tell me what her mental state is. Other than crazy, do you mean emotional, that she is having loud emotions? Is that what you're interpreting? So, and then I will get told that I am difficult. I'm being difficult, rather than getting an actual answer to my question. Whereas when I work with female directors, if I ask a question, they immediately have an answer. And then we can just get on with working, because women are more used to having to justify themselves to everyone around them. So they have reasons lined up, not just, well, she's crazy because I said so. You know? Well, I think she's crazy because she has specifically gone through these things and she's specifically saying these things in the text, and that's what I want to focus on. Great, easy, I can do that. Thank you. Male directors are different, very different.
I guess what sort of saddened me a little bit, because I am always willing to hear, I hope this is true, and I hope you guys find this true, but if you have a different way or a thought about how something should go, I'm always willing to hear it. But, you know, if I come back and I always feel like if I said to, you know, you, Hannah or Edward, like, I'd really like it this way, you'd be like, okay, sure. You know, maybe you think it would be better another way, but no problem, that we'll do it that way. What I found elsewhere was they just wouldn't do it. And what I didn't understand is, guys, with Audible, when you are hiring voice actors, you actually, there's ranges. So I was always at the top of the range per finished hour. Now I realize that's probably not enough, but it was the highest that anyone was going. I just assumed that only the big six were going far harder than that. So, and there was only like maybe a dozen, 2 dozen opportunities there at any given time. I wanted to get high quality actors and everything. So I thought, well, surely I am paying, and I didn't want to be like, well, I paid you, so do it. Maybe I should have been like that. But I was stunned that, you know, right?
Hired escort for the night. I've hired you for your voice. Shut up and speak good.
Right. That's how I felt though, Edward. It was like, ooh, maybe that's not exactly who I want to be, but it was so objectionable at some level to me and what I felt my audience would accept, that I literally had to fire one guy. And I told you how he was like, well, I said, I don't really think, you know, this is really where we should be going. He's like, well, I think you should leave the direction of this to me. And I paid him for his time. He said, thank you very much, but no, you will not be, you will not be working on this. But they're not that, what I'm trying to say is, for like for at least if you're going at it from that arena, there are not that many opportunities to get in. And I've always, if you get in with me, I use you for everything. I try to pay as, you know, the top dollar. If you need more time, I'm very, I try to be understanding because you guys have to fit in everything.
Yep. You've
Well, if
always
I
been
go ahead.
incredible. And so I just don't understand why someone would be like, well, no.
Well,
I mean,
no,
you're very,
right?
you're very you're one of the most flexible and understanding. I mean, I've got all the authors we work with are amazing. There's only been like one bad experience that I had with an author, and I'm not convinced that they weren't autistic, and maybe I was just,
Not
you know,
reaching them in the way, yeah, that they could
not
understand.
reaching them and not speaking to them the way that I should have if that was the case, if I had known. But it is so frustrating to me because there are union rates and we work for union rates. That's what we charge. What the union says should be the going rate is what we charge. The fact that these big companies are paying less than that means they have deals with the union who's basically said, yes, you can fuck our actors over so long as we get so long as this is union work and we get and our union actors are getting all of that, that work, which pisses me off even more.
Yeah.
This is why I like horror stories.
This is industry horror stories. Okay, we're gonna go back to the horror stories. I actually have. Sorry, guys, we were just.
Yes, I want to hear more.
Fascinating to talk industry. Yes, and I'm sure. I hope it was for you. And we actually have a question for you, Hannah. If you met up with Sophia Strange, would you like her to tell you your future? That is a horror question.
God, no. That's a no for me. Hard no.
Yeah, terrifying. Absolutely. I would like to know.
Oh,
I would like to know. Yeah, I would want 100%. I want to know when I'm going to die, how I'm going to die. I want to know where I'm going to be successful. I also want to know where I can change things, because I think it's important to remember that what Sophia sees is just what is is only what will happen if certain events fall into place. So it's changeable. The future is changeable. And if I know what the future is, she could also tell me how I might be able to change it if I don't like it.
That would be, you know, I always wondered, like, I wrestle with Seer in terms of she can't play as large a role because of what she's like. It's funny because she is playing a role in the next book, especially, but if she interferes too much, she has to interfere just enough and in just the right way and not say anything at all. And one of the things that the other immortals have a problem with is just like, why didn't you let us know? And she was like, if I let you know, then it wouldn't happen the way it needs to happen. So she finds herself setting herself apart a lot because she cannot, because people both want to know and don't want to know. So that's
I'm assuming that like the messenger can often be shot in these kind of situations. Like, I'm just telling you how it is, but you know, just avoiding that conflict of people not liking what they hear.
Yeah. Oh no, I think that that's very true. And I think people almost are like, it's almost like a drug, like, tell me what's going to happen. Tell me what's going to happen. And then, it's just like, yeah, they tell you. And then I think there's that scene in The Matrix where Neo, knocks over basically something. And the woman who is essentially, you know, Cassandra says to him, now what's really going to blow your mind is if I didn't say anything, would you have knocked it over at all? And that was like the idea of, you know, how that would do. Hold on one second. I'm scrolling through to see. Everyone loves your comparison of breath and arsenic. That was awesome. I think that was like, and everyone's going on about Edward's voice. So Edward, just preen a little bit because there are so many comments about it. Oh my God.
Look, we don't, as you know, as performers, we don't get a lot of feedback often directly from audiences. So these live streams are so good for our souls as artists to see that we can affect you guys in real time, and that we're not just doing it for ourselves, like, you know, self-indulgent artists.
Well, I find it because when I put out individual books, you get reviews after it's done, and that is so like to me, that feels like that book is dead. It is dead because I cannot change it anymore. Versus the serial, when I get like stop talking about the dead book. I'm sorry, that book is gone. But the serials are alive, and they can continue to change, and I can actually use their input then. To make it so much better and to revise it as I've gone. Believe me, I've written myself into corners all the time, and people have given me a way out. By the way, there's a lot of stuff where Moist Towelettes is saying everyone's voices in Everdark are amazing, so everyone keep that in mind.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
So yes, hold on a second here. All right, we are going to do another giveaway. We are going to do The Werewolf Next Door. It is a Sexy Times manga. I would like you to put in the chat. Let's see, what silly word can I have you put in the chat? Balloon. Please put balloon in the chat. I have to think about it like for a second, like think to myself, like, what have we not said?
Balloon.
Rebecca, you just finished directing a show, didn't you?
Well, it's in the process of being finished, but
I
yeah.
see. All right.
I was going to say speaking of horror stories, but it is not that at all. It is
no, it looked like it was a lot of fun, actually.
What show are you directing? Can you tell us or no?
I don't think I can.
Darn it.
Yeah. But it's going to be...
It's a comedy.
Yes. And there's no vampires. There might be vampires, but they don't reveal themselves to be vampires in the, in the course of the
they might be. They could be vampires.
Right? It's not, part of the storyline, but any one of them could actually be a vampire,
Excellent. Let's see. Okay. Mickey Moon Tiger, or is Misky? Has won the giveaway. All right. Sorry, there's now sirens here because that's just the way we roll in Evanston. So you are going to get a copy of The Werewolves Next Door, and how you do that is you email marketing@raytherain.com. Marketing@raytherain.com. Kat will give you a code. You will go to the shop. You will use that code when you check out, and you will get the book for free. Thank you guys so much. Those of you who have already bought this manga, I cannot tell you how much I want to thank you for doing that. Manga are incredibly expensive to make, and we rarely break even, but I don't care. I continue to make them because I think they are amazing. And it is just a blast.
We all like to have our own wonderful artists bring our visions to life like that. That'd be amazing. Yeah,
it really is. It's such a and I think I've told this before. T-Wolf especially somehow is able to reach into my head and pull out the images, because I don't put the description that's really that good, that she just gets it, and yet she does get it. And she is just stunning. She actually studied with a Japanese sensei for her work, and to do this, and she's truly amazing, as is Matthias, as are all the artists that we work with, but really and truly, man. Okay.
That's one of my bucket list things. That was also to have an action figure, and I've got that. So now we've got to move on, right?
Yes.
I want to know what everyone's favorite monster is in two categories.
Ooh, okay.
Terrifies you. So this the ones like, oh no, that's amazingly awesome and scary. And then sounds funny, but your friendly monster. So a monster that it's scary and dangerous, but cool.
Cuddly somehow.
Well, maybe not cuddly, but I wouldn't mind being one, or being friends with it, or associating with it. A definite nope.
Pumpkinhead scares the living crap out of me. That was an old movie
interesting one.
Late 80s, early 90s. Terrifying. It's sort of like the Wendigo in some ways, in a lot of ways. as for a cuddly monster, or maybe one that I wouldn't. Obviously, I'd love to be a vampire. My God, I would love to be a vampire. Like, please, like that's the thing. I don't go out during the day anyway, and my skin is so fair. I don't like, you know how some people like, oh, I get so tan or I freckle. I just burn and then I go back to white again. It's very depressing. But obviously we're getting a lot of interesting one. The Pumpkinhead people in Over the Garden Wall. That's even freakier.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, what was that? Oh, The Last of Us. The
Oh yes.
mushroom spores.
Ah.
Yeah, that grossed me out. That's a no, not gonna be friends with you. A fungal infection. Yeah.
That's
Oh yes.
horror kind of stuff.
They really did such a good job. Did you guys see the HBO?
Yeah.
I love the game, obviously, but they did a really good job in the HBO part of it.
Virginia Cardinal Mummies. Yeah, there was a wonderful short film, mummy short film. I think Stephen King wrote it. That was brilliant and terrifying. It was in I'll have to Google it. But all I remember from it is that the mummy, the people who had messed with it, it came and sort of tried to embalm them.
Oh God!
Things, so it cut them open with scissors because that's all it could find and stuff holes in them and things.
Oh God!
I was like, oh, that's interesting. Whereas I love the mummies with Brendan Fraser, that series. I was like, no, these mummies are cool.
Ooh.
What about?
I don't like. I hate zombies. I don't like zombies, especially like the 28 Days Later zombies. I don't like those.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like them. I don't.
Any of the like creepy standing in a dark corner isn't really there kind of monsters. Those
Jesus.
Like, you know, like we again, my cat, we call him Mr. Babadook because sometimes he will just sit in the doorway and he looks like a little the cartoon of the Babadook. But anything that's like that, you know, when you see out of the corner of your eye in a dark room a shadow and you're like, is that actually something there? And those things freak the hell out of me.
Yes. Oh God, yes.
My friendly monsters are werewolves. I love werewolves.
Yeah, werewolves.
Okay.
Even cuddly. I like. Do you remember Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
For me,
Donald Sutherland.
Yes,
is amazing in that.
The for me the terrifying one is infectious diseases. Yes, that's not a good thing. And then losing bodily autonomy, so that I'm paralyzed and unable or out of control of my body, and something else doing things to me or using me, but being conscious of that. That's
being conscious of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my. I do not like sharks. I think are cool. So
cool.
Don't try to hug them though.
No hugging the sharks. I've heard that lemon sharks are actually very affectionate and very jealous if anyone else tries to go up to divers they like. So yeah,
it's kind of cute.
They're like, no, they like to be petted, and then they.
This is my shark fan.
Right, goodness, the over affectionate ex who's a lemon shark.
An overly affectionate actor who's a lemon shark. Oh my God!
I love some of the Japanese and Chinese sort of supernatural creatures, the kitsune.
Oh yes,
yes. Love them in traditional plays of the foxes, and I love the notion of the cats. That the reason you bob the tail is because the cat will keep living, and a long tail means an ancient cat, and cats watch you because they're learning how to turn into human.
Yes, that's a great one.
I love that story and the idea that you wake up in a ditch, you know, underneath someone's porch, which the night before seemed like a palatial mansion where you were treated to dinner by a beautiful woman. I love those stories of
that is a good one.
Shifters who aren't humans, but they're an animal who learns to be a human. That's always
yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen a bunch of those, but there was actually some really so sad ones, like I think like animes where they capture the kitsune and they kill them. It's awful. It's truly awful. I know, and they're like beautiful and sweet.
I like that we're all on Team Kitsune.
I know.
What is it called? Painted Skin. It's a collection of Chinese ghost stories, I think. And there's a lovely one about a woman who, or she's dead, but she has to take off her skin and keep it sort of moisturized. So she paints it and sort of puts it on. And a lot of a very different take from what we see in the West of the dead who are still with us, who can't move on for some reason. And I again, the kitsune, I can't remember what the cat ones are called, but yeah, they're great. And there's a wonderful one. Was it Chinese ghost story, where one of the characters in that is actually a fox, and she falls in love with the hero and then sacrifices herself for him, and he never realizes. It's so sad. It's so sad.
Yeah, they're always sort of like a tragic.
Oh yeah,
more tragic figure.
It's also the kill your gays and the kill your people are living an alternate lifestyle in those things.
Edward, are you an outdoorsy person? Because people think you are. Are you like because you're obviously swimming with sharks out in the woods, going to asylums?
I would love to be more often than I am. I have to sit in a small booth and record audiobooks to pay the rent, but again, to go and interact with the world, I do. I love it. I really challenges me.
God.
I'm going to do some work on the Scottish play soon, and last time I was working on it, I may have gone for a walk in the woods and stood on a cliff and recited lines to a thunderstorm that was rolling over the valley, and got a real charge out of that. So, yeah.
And now that I'm sorry, Edward, that's making a way into one of these books of mine, because that is probably one of the most romantic things I've ever heard, and powerful. I think that's happening.
And then there's me. I'm like, well, that's self-indulgent. Sorry.
Self-love, my lord, is not so vile a sin as self-neglect. That might be a masturbation joke.
That's so true. It's so true. Eastern European monsters are terrifying. I find that they really know how to roll those out, from the Baba Yagas to the other things, that they're just terrifying. The drowners and all that kind of stuff, which is just so
love
cool.
them. I love them all. I think the Eastern European Slavic folklore is basically just there to teach small children that life is fucking hard, and you better get used to it now.
Yeah, absolutely.
It accounts for so much of the way I was brought up and my viewpoints of the world. Vanessa and I have a friend, Glenn, who is also Eastern European, and he is a misanthrope. I don't think there's any other. That's right, Vanessa, right? Like misanthrope.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, love him. And he just gets it. There's just, when we work on like a Chekhov play or something like that, he just gets it. He gets like the comedy in that incredibly sort of sad, morose story. And all those old folklore, all that Slavic folklore is just to prepare children for a very hard life.
Oh God,
yeah,
that's it.
Agree. There's, I think, what was that Fishman love story, Memory of Water, or no?
Oh yeah.
It's an interesting one. I mean, even Frankenstein, to a certain extent, I think, is a form of monsters and natural romance.
That really, and of course, the real monster was the doctor, right? Which is what's so fascinating with that.
That's
but
it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Memory of Water is a play.
It was the other one. Yeah, it's Shape of Water. But it's funny because I have this merman series which I love, and I was like, I couldn't actually see that because I was like, I didn't want to be infected with the horror part of that. Because that can happen. So I'm like, no, I just don't want to think of the horror part of that, because that's just like, I think one of the Irish folklore is terrifying.
Agree.
The horses that eat human flesh,
the
kelpie.
Nice.
Those are. Yeah, that really bothers me.
Personally, I love leprechauns. I think they're great horror creatures.
They are. Yes, they are. In some terrible way.
Those movies were terrible in the best way, if you've ever seen them.
Oh, yes.
Which one?
Those are so funny.
They are.
Oh, the Leprechaun movies? Oh yeah.
Yes.
They're classic horror. They're hilarious and hilariously good. And it's the guy
Yeah.
from Willow who plays him, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
The actor
Oh
from
my
Willow?
God, yes.
Yeah,
Did
he
you guys
plays
see
the Leprechaun.
They played an Ewok in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
he's
yes,
very
yes,
good.
yes.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the renewed Willow? I actually liked it. I know a lot of people didn't, but I actually did, and he was great in that. Although I could tell like how physically he was having trouble, but he was great in that.
Yeah.
Again. Actually, I have a question, Raythe. When you first introduced Charlie in Everdark, did you know how important he would get later in the story? No, I did not. We'll just leave it as that. I did not. And then it was clear to me that, of course, one thing that I love about serial writing and writing in general, and I think that is what your brain is working on the whole time and you have no idea is being worked on. And then it's like, well, of course, this is how it always should have been. It's almost like you had been planning this all along. Which is just fascinating to me how that all works, because it like, little things slot into place. I don't know, Edward, Hannah, and Vanessa, if you know how important Charlie becomes.
I don't.
Not yet, we don't.
Yeah, we
Not yet, we
I don't know. He
I
is
think
very
some people like to pretend they planned it all out beforehand, but I think that any creative art evolves and changes as you discover the story and as it sort of reveals itself. I know that sounds a little bit self-indulgent, Hannah, but it's a process of creating and then rewriting and being okay.
I
to say,
100% agree with that.
Okay.
I'm also, because I do a lot of theater, my theory is, somebody has said to me, oh, I didn't really get what you were doing because they were watching me during rehearsals until I saw you on stage and it all came to life. And I'm like, well, I said, how can you possibly have a finished scene without the final cast member, which is the audience? And every night the audience is different. So you're working with a new person every single night, and it changes what you do. And it keeps it alive, and it keeps it changing, and it keeps you on your toes. So anyone who just wants to go about doing their performance in front of an audience without considering the audience as part of that process, as part of the play, is going to fail every single time. Every single time.
Oh boy.
It's the same thing as what you do. It's the same thing as what you do, right? It's you listen to what they tell you and you respond.
Absolutely. So, Edward, what did you want to say?
Well, I would say that's so cool that you've developed this community, Raythe.
Yeah.
People who can interact with you, and it gives you immediate feedback. Like with a live audience, if what I'm doing doesn't work, I can adjust. With film, you can't. You just have to trust that it's going to work. But I think this ability to write in a serial fashion and observe how it's going is brilliant. Just want to talk about the Mary Lwyd, which is a Welsh tradition of wassailing.
Oh God!
I don't know if you all know about this, but it's actually I think they do it around Christmas time, and it's how people used to come to your door and sing carols. Maybe you've experienced that.
Okay.
Well, this one is people show up at your door with a hobby horse, so a stick, but they have a horse's skull on the end of it with ribbons around it, all dressed up. And then it challenges you to a rhyming contest. That you have to sort of have a rap battle with it.
Oh my God.
If you lose, it gets to come into your house and drink all your beer.
I love it.
That, at least it's just drinking your beer and not your blood.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that would be a little bit like, oh shit.
Speaking of Welsh ghost stories, do you guys know the story of Jeff?
No.
There's a movie coming out about that, isn't there?
Yes, there is, and it looks absolute Jeff. He is Ricky Tikki Tavi. What's Ricky Tikki Tavi? He's
mongoose. I love that.
Mongoose. Yeah. It's about a mongoose. Apparently, there was this family in Wales, in the middle of nowhere, who was like, "There is a mongoose living in our walls, and he talks to us." And his name is Jeff. And he causes he was causing trouble. He was causing a lot of chaos, and they had a bunch of people come to the house to investigate. And I think that's the part of the movie that they're making of it. It's huge cast, a great cast too. But it's an actual story of this family who convinced everyone that there was this
Mongoose Jeff.
mongoose named Jeff in their walls, telling them to murder people. Like it was.
Oh my God!
Please just Google it. Google Jeff mongoose whales.
GEF.
It will all come up for you.
Wales, I think it's the
GEF. Yeah.
The Isle of Wight, wasn't it? The Isle of Wight or Isle of Man?
Yeah, maybe it was the Isle of Wight. No, I
Weird
think
place.
it must have been. It must have been Wales. Look it up, guys. Seriously. Googling it right now.
God.
Mongoose. Yeah, I think all of those mummering traditions of sharing stories during holidays and visiting people's houses and things is just a great one. Even there was a thing that the Norse did called flyting, which was literally rap battles, and often your mama themed rap battles. That it still continues to this day. But you didn't have television, so what do? Drink and come up with funny brood poems about their mum.
I like this. I like this.
Honestly, sounds like a good life to me.
It does. It sounds like a much better idea. That's speaking of.
It's like Vikings doing poetry battles at each other, and you lose if you punch them. But I guess that'd be fun too.
Oh yeah, that would be actually very fun. That would be like, okay, so poets are like valued now versus like
artists. Wow, imagine.
Was in the Olympics. Then it got taken out because we can't have that. We need to have men grinding their bodies against each other in very virile, manly, and definitely heterosexual ways.
Of course, that's how this all works.
There's nothing to say you can't have both.
That's true. That's true.
Math.
I know Halloween is more an American thing, but are you guys? Obviously, are you guys doing anything for it? Do you have parties? Are you dressing up? Are you doing anything?
In Canada, it's as big as it is in the US.
Oh, okay, go. I didn't know if it was.
It's fantastic. It was not something I grew up with. We had All Hallows Eve, which, because I was raised sort of in a Catholic environment, so we were aware of this thing called All Hallows Eve, but not Halloween in the same way as you have in other cultures. So it wasn't a big thing in Australia. I was only exposed to it through movies like E.T., where suddenly everyone dresses up in amazing outfits and gets candy. And I thought, why?
Why do we have this?
Brilliant.
This is one export from America anyone can fully embrace.
Oh, it also, to me, is bizarre because
so
if you look at the persecution and horrific things that went on in very recent times about people, in America, and yet now it's okay to dress up like this and do it.
It's crazy, right? We don't say it, but America is a country of contradictions.
Yes.
In all ways.
Incredible beauty and creativity and wondrous ideas, and then dark shit.
Dark shit. Yes. Full of hate and full of love, full of hope and full of dread. Yeah, I know.
And the other cool thing that I recently discovered, the maned wolf. If you haven't Googled it, you should. It's the largest king in America. And if you want to talk about chupacabra, another favorite of mine.
Chupacabra, yes, I love him.
I want to do a chupacabra horror movie and instead of a werewolf, have a chupacabra. And maybe have real other werewolves around him, and they give him shit because he's a coyote. And
of course, and he's like a little ratty.
Yeah, Nordic buff dudes. And
they look really interesting. They look a little bit like jackals. Like their legs are quite different from like a regular dog or a wolf. They look like a mix between a jackal and a hyena. And I love them. And they look a little
unkempt somehow.
Yes, well,
yes, and they often have mange. They're prone to it. And
it is mange. Yes.
Yeah, and then they're mistaken for chupacabra.
Yeah,
I could see that. I could totally see that.
Which to me is like that really weird cryptid that I would want to meet. That like it could come to bed with me if it wanted to, and I could cuddle it, and we would be okay.
Did you hear that, Edward? It's gonna creep into bed with him.
I'll watch. There's also a fabulous new species of wolf called sea wolves that are being researched off the Pacific Northwest of the United States and Canada, and they spend in the water.
Really?
And their diet is from the ocean. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
They've been pushed.
And they have like webbed. They have like webbed paws.
Really?
Yeah, and they're smaller.
Better swimmers.
Bigger ones. Yeah. and they can swim
Oh
really
my
well from island
God.
to island. Isn't that brilliant? How nature's like, you know what, humans are
Yes.
on the planet. We'll just out-evolve you.
Yes. we just will. So this works. That's wild. That is wild indeed. Yeah, my niece is getting married next week. So although the following week is really, it's really Halloween. So but that's sort of putting a kink in my Halloween plans, because we normally would do the pumpkins and stuff now, but we're actually on the 28th. I think we're going to do horror movies and pumpkin carving and lots of candy and ridiculousness. So that's my plan. So I hope everyone else is doing it. We don't really get dressed up, but definitely you have to get into the season. But because I've really felt like, I don't know if anyone else has felt like this, but the whole year has whizzed by and it's going to be Christmas again. And this is like, good God, not really ready for this, please.
Oh God, no.
I know,
we
I'm
just
sorry.
had Thanksgiving in Canada last weekend. So
jeez.
I know we get ours earlier than yours, but my best friend's birthday is October 28th. So we always celebrated her birthday and Halloween, and she always had a huge party, and it was all
That's
like
awesome.
Halloween themed. Everyone had to dress up. We watched horror movies and just went wild, because it was the 80s and 90s and children just ran wild anyway. Yeah, great times. I love Halloween. It's Halloween for me, and Christmas are my two favorites in the year.
I think Halloween's a brilliant holiday. It just feels really joyous, and people get to dress up for a few days however they'd like to dress.
Yes.
Even the most outfits, as opposed to, I just think what a wonderful idea that if you want to wear thigh-high leather boots and leather pants and a big poet shirt and strut around, no one cares.
No one cares. It's allowed. It's allowed.
Cool. But then you have to go back to boring wear.
I know. I know.
That's the sad part.
Bunyips. Yeah, bunyips are a great horror thing. That's one I'd love to do a movie about. A really good outback
Australian
monster movie about a bunyip. Yeah. They drag you into the water holes and drown you.
Seriously? Oh, good God. What do they look like?
The descriptions are very mixed from different people around Australia, because the Indigenous peoples of Australia have a wonderfully diverse traditions of language and storytelling, all sorts of things. And there's some really good monsters, including and even a sort of a supernatural tradition of the Kadaicha men, who are people who could point a bone at you or a wand and kill you. So yeah.
Good God. Well, this is funny. Darian asked, what would Everdark characters think of Halloween? I mean, Damon dresses like it's Halloween all the time, but I mean, if he puts on clothes, I think actually Balthazar would just have a blast with it.
Balthazar would have known of Halloween when it was an Irish turnip festival, wouldn't he?
Yeah, he would have. He would have. Oh God!
For those of you who don't know about the carving of pumpkins, that's a very modern thing. It was previously marrows and turnips.
Which, let me tell you, are a lot harder to carve than a pumpkin.
And a lot scarier when they are.
Yeah, they are.
Google carved turnips or whatever from Halloween, and some of them are creepy.
I can believe it. I can totally believe it. But I think, the mirror vampires would have the best Halloween parties.
Oh yeah.
Because so I think I might have to do like an extra where they're having a Halloween party where it's basically like that's the deal and everyone's going there and then something happens. Yeah, I definitely have to do that. That's going to be fun.
I think so. I think that would be really fun.
Holiday, like a vampire Christmas. As even to Halloween is that, the idea of the crossing over of spirits and the time when the worlds are closest, the wall between the world. Then that'd be the day.
Oh my God. By the way, on Leisurely Panda, yes, Julian and Christian still go hunting. They still have their show in Everdark Academy. They still have their show and they do go looking for monsters.
Vampires are real.
I love it.
Oh my God. It was.
It sounds so much. You sound so much like Adam when you did that.
That's so scary. I was like, did he just yeah.
I kind of, what's his name? Why do I want Keanu Reeves playing that role now?
Now, yes, because that really is like him back. Yeah, like there's tales of the set of him on Dracula where he was at it wasn't Scorsese who directed it was the other.
No, it was Coppola.
Coppola, and they were actually staying at Coppola's house, and like Keanu would go down at midnight to like go raid the refrigerator for snacks. and stuff like this. Like he would just be sort of adorable about it, I guess. I mean, the man is like a living stuffed animal, so
He's
living
he is
stuffed animal that
amazing. I love
kills,
him.
but
That's a good thing. I want a stuffed animal that can kill.
I like that. I like that one thing.
My father told me a story many moons ago that my teddy bear, the reason I had to make my bed and put my teddy bear in and make the bed for him was so that he could sleep during the day while I was out and about, so that during the night he could stay up and guard me against anything that would come to get me.
That
And
is so cute.
Of the teddy bears are secretly guardians who protect you from all the things in the night. And
I love it.
And you have to make your bed. I think that's what he was getting at. But
yes, make your bed. That's really what he was trying to. But I love that story.
Yeah,
Hold
that's
on
a great
one
story.
second. I've got to mute myself for a second. I've got to talk to someone. 1 second. But you guys keep talking amongst yourselves.
There's Lily. Yes, now it is our time, Lily. Let's do it. Do it now. Take over. What are we going to talk about?
Oh, too bad Bruno's here. There's so many questions about whether K-Morn likes Halloween or not.
Right. Or if it's like a busy work season for him.
I think just a lot of eye rolling.
Yeah, probably. He's he's a real he reminds me so much of what's the guy who's playing Oppenheimer right now? Cillian Murphy.
Mm-hmm.
He's like if I was gonna choose somebody else other than our amazing Bruno to play it, I'd be like, oh yeah, Cillian Murphy could play this role. What do you guys think out there? Cillian Murphy as K-Morn?
For the big screen adaptation.
And I want to know what
screen
people like. If anyone's a fan.
Oh yes.
And how come cryptids get a special title? And what's a cryptid and what's a monster? I don't know. But I've just been playing around up in Penticton, which is on a lake where apparently a cryptid lives.
Yes.
What's its name? Ogopogo.
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 He's sort of the same. He's like the indigenous version of like Loch Ness Monster or Champ.
No, not the Ogopogo. Apparently, was to sell whiskey around the turn of the century. So came up with a name. The spirit of the lake, that the indigenous, it has a different name and a different legend. But
okay.
Yeah. But I love cryptids. I think Mothman is cool. Someone mentioned Mothman earlier.
Mothman is awesome.
Yeah.
The author, I read the guy who was sort of known for that, and I'm blanking on his name. But if you read his book, they're far more terrifying. I don't know if this is true or if he made it up, but it's actually really scary. There's more to it than that, than just the Mothman. That's just one story out of many that he experienced, and it's really good. It's interesting. It's not what you would expect.
There's some amazing.
Well, aren't those Jersey Pine Barrens supposed to like have a whole bunch of weird things attached to them, including like aliens and the Jersey Devil?
Oh,
yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
All those weird things happen there. It's got like a weird energy to it, I think, probably. People are like, this place is weird and creepy.
Oh God, yes. No, and that's true with those deep, dark forests that are still there and stuff like that.
There's one in Romania that I am dying to visit. It's called Hoia-Baciu. Hoia-Baciu. Do you have any Romanians here who know this forest? There's like a whole, you can go in, all the trees are really weird. They are all like bent in one direction. And then apparently there's like this one spot in it where like no trees will grow. It's just like a clearing. And people have seen all sorts of weird things there.
Probably.
But they think that
yes, Mina, that is correct.
Like a meteorite or something that.
Or a Soviet.
Yeah, that's something crashed there and everything. Since then, not.
I just love how we as a species create stories to explain things that we don't know rather than saying, I don't know.
Right. Well, elaborate stories, elaborate tales of this. Yeah.
And then we take the stories we've half heard and fill in the blanks rather than checking.
Right. Because that's far better than actually, just being honest about, I know. It's ridiculous.
Well, actually, one story that also creeps me out is in this vein is the those skiers who went into the Ural Mountains and died.
Yes. Yes, and how
And
they
they
were
still haven't
found.
explained it. What's the passes? It's called
It's the something part. It's not the Donner Party, but it's something.
No. It's Death Mountain, which is where they were on. It's basically the mountain that they say, "Do not go here, or you will die." Basically, that's the translation of it.
Yeah, and there's all sorts of like
Ural
weird.
Mountains, and
Yeah, it's in the Ural
really
Mountains. Yeah,
the
Uh,
Nancy or God, I know this one. If all these there, I actually read a story that was based on this that did it
yes.
Yes,
in
Lena,
America.
thank you.
Yeah.
Dyatlov Pass.
Yes,
Dyatlov Pass. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Dyatlov Pass.
Thank you.
I find that story creepy as hell,
Mhm.
and I think the creepiest thing is that there are no answers, and people are saying, "I don't know." Nobody really knows. There are lots of theories,
and some of them are pretty good, but they're not as satisfying as the spooky ones.
The spooky ones are so much better.
Well, I'm fascinated by how that idea of what previously could be explained in a fairly mundane way, suddenly there's a more. My brain goes, but I like that story better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And now I can't let it go.
And you really want to, basically hold on to the mystery of it all, I guess is what I would say. No, that's very,
well, they
very
still,
true.
I mean, to this day, there is no actual explanation. No one has come up with a satisfactory explanation that all the experts can say, yes, that is probably what happened.
No, and the insanity.
But there's
of
some
what
pretty
they did.
crazy ones in there too.
There's great ones. There's so many great ones.
I think the one that is most likely is just creepy, and it's mostly that a combination of hypothermia and other people.
Yes.
That is probably what happened.
The most likely thing is that they thought there was probably an avalanche coming, and they ran the fuck out of there, and they did it as fast as they could, and then they got too far, and then of course then it just went a little nuts. Yeah. But I think it feels like it's got to be more than that,
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Yeah, well, there's
more, but it isn't. I mean, the Roanoke mystery again. That's another great one, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
About that fairly recently, leaving up some.
But there are some really good explanations for that one. That make total sense. That you're just kind of like, oh yeah, okay, I guess that makes sense.
Don't tell me. I don't want it ruined.
Well, then I won't. I won't tell you. I won't tell you anything about it then.
Well, look up Croatan. That's a good hint.
Croatoan, or
Croatoan, yeah.
There's so many good stories out there, and mysteries and creepy horrors, and this is a great time of year to sit and tell stories and find the ones you love and share them with other people. I think that's my favorite part of what I picked up around Halloween, and that tradition of sitting around a fire, murdering some marshmallows and telling stories.
Absolutely, murdering marshmallows has to happen.
Yes.
I don't know what the secret is. I can't do it. It just they burn and melt.
I like to burn them, and then
That's my
I
favorite.
eat the skin, and then the soft part you burn it again. It's awesome.
That's my favorite too.
Oh, it's the best, man. It's the absolute best.
So good. Yeah. Agreed.
I have kept you guys for almost 2.5 hours.
Really?
Already? Wow.
I so appreciate the fact of you guys coming and being here and just doing all the things as usual. I know everyone loves it. And I am so glad you guys are a part of my life as well as part of everyone else's. It's a thousand thing.
We're so happy that you guys are a part of ours. So it works two ways.
Yay!
I am very thankful for being part of this too, and all these amazing people online here. I feel like I know you, you're my friends. We hang out, and we do this, and we have fun. So thank you so much for being part of this too, because otherwise we'd just be shouting in the dark, right? Shouting.
Yes, not knowing if any of our work mattered, but hoping it did. Wait, we have to do one last super chat from Lily. My God. There's a forest near me called the Dancing Forest. There was a girl who played a flute that made the trees dance. She was then killed. Of course she was. And the trees got stuck in their dance forever. You can hear her playing in the forest. Holy cow, Lily. That's not at all tragic and terrible. That's awesome. That's awesome. Wow. All right. Now I think I'm going to add all of this stuff that I hear from, you guys. I'm like, that's going into the story. That's going into the story. Oh, that's going into the story. That's the best. That is the best. Thank you.
Amateurs borrow, professionals steal.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Stealing is happening. Don't tell me anything. It will end up in a story. Yes, you will. Yes, it will. That's how the full thing is going. Audience, for those of you who have been here today, for those of you who have sent super chats, amazing. For those of you who have purchased a book or listened to us on YouTube,
thank
you. Those of you who are members, thank you. Thank you. For those of you who have told others about us, thank you. We literally could not do this without you, and we wouldn't want to, because we want to hear how you love it or hate it or want more or all the things. Thank you guys so much. I will end the stream here, but we will of course do this again in a couple months with everybody, hopefully. So this is, the things, all the things. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. And email us with you if you want to hear short horror stories. They just need to be out of copyright.
Yes, make sure you do that. So imagine these guys telling you scary tales and scary tales you like. So definitely do it. And I can't wait.
Screen.
I definitely put my Rats in the Walls and Carmilla. I want.
Okay. All right. Race requests are in.
Your own horror stories for next year, so that we can have some more fan fiction, brilliant horror stories.
Yes.
That's how we start.
Yes, absolutely.
We love it.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Take care. We'll see you soon. All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care.